Thank you, Kyle. Thank you all for being here. I've just been looking forward to today for about 3 months, and it's already been such a pleasure to see so many familiar faces, and for us as the Minneapolis, St. Paul, and extended Agile community to come back together again. So, F you, COVID, we're back. All right, so here's what we're talking about today, and I couldn't think of better timing for it. So the theme of today's conference is the pace of change is upping our game. And as we put the program together, we really wanted to kind of think of this along 4 dimensions. The first, 20 years of Agile. Actually, I think it's like 21 years of Agile now. So the Agile Manifesto can have a drink legally, and a lot has happened, yet maybe in some cases we're still making the same gosh darn mistakes that we were making 21 years ago. So on this track, you'll be able to reflect on what have we learned and where do we want to continue to go. And there's some really strong tracks on that, or talks on that track, excuse me. Second up, near and dear to my heart, product innovation in the face of change. One of my greatest concerns, fears, nitpicks about corporate America is everyone's all about talking about product innovation. But then it's like when the rubber meets the road, we don't have time for that. Or you know what? You 4 at this table, you go over there and innovate while everyone else in this room does real work. Let us know when you're done. That isn't real innovation. And as things are going faster and faster and faster, how can we make space for ideas and taking better products to market? That's what that track's going to talk about. Thirdly, technology. What needs to change? One of the goals of this conference all the time, going back to David Hussman and his beliefs about technology being at the heart of everything we do, was we never want this conference to lose a flavor of being truly technical. We always want there to be a talk that a developer would come to this conference and go to. And this is this track where we're going to talk really deeply in, all right, how is all of this change pushing the envelope in terms of what our tech, what our environments, what the cloud can do. And then last but not least, we're going to go into the personal aspect, which is the 4th track, from surviving to thriving in a world of constant change. And to me, this is something I've been thinking a lot about. Is like, how is this pace of change, and I hope that I can make the assertion without proving it, that things are moving faster and faster now, and that we're being expected to deliver faster and faster now. Is that a safe assumption? All right, maybe, maybe not. I've just been kind of recently reflecting on the last 3-4 years, kind of pre-COVID to post-COVID. In 2019, I grabbed this screenshot out of I think it was an Inc.com article. It said, half of the S&P 500 companies will be replaced in the next decade. This was said in 2019. Now, reflecting on this 3-4 years in, I think that statement is conservative. I would guess that more than half will be replaced. All right, 2020, enter COVID. I love this comic. It was so real. It reminded me of a client I was working with at that time that was like, we don't really need to stress out this digital transformation stuff. We'll tell the board we're doing it, but no rush, right? 2 weeks later, we're all working from home. And then 2022, as we sit it today, it's just all this stuff is shooting at us. And I don't know if it's buzzwords or it's real. It's a little bit of both. Great resignation, global inflation, tech talent shortage, impending recession, political turmoil, both here and in Europe, and market dips. How is this affecting us in business? How many of you have switched jobs this year or are currently looking for a new job? Yeah. I guess that great resignation thing is real. Hey, Al, did you just raise your hand? Gosh darn it. All right, so let's kind of talk for a second. How is this pace of change affecting us as people? And as I think about this, I was reflecting on my own career, and I was also reflecting on what I've seen change over almost 25 years of working in the software industry. And I think the first thing is the spectrum of skills required has changed drastically. I'll make this picture T-shaped. You all have seen this crud. But when I first came into the industry back in 2000, it was all about being a deep expert. You wanted to be the leg of the T. This has completely changed. Now the most valuable people, the people that are paid the most, are the ones that are the top of the T. And none of us ever go end to end, but having more breadth of skills is more valued today. Don't believe me? Go look up pay ranges for a full stack developer. And that's just one example of this. Now, as we started to do this as an industry, we were able to change the way we work to work in teams. It used to be we worked like we were running a relay race and we'd pass the baton. Column 1 to column 2 to column 3 to column 4. I once worked with a client that was Agile. They had 24 columns. And they were building a web app. That was a problem. And then if you look at one of these columns, and there's only one person in it, that person goes on vacation, is sick, or quits. We're kind of stuck, right? So now we've changed how we work from working together versus working alone. All right, and another way to think of it. When I first moved here from the great state of Wisconsin, aka God's country, after college, go Packers, it's not our year, but we'll get you next year. I worked in a team, a perfect two-pizza team, that was 100% located in one building on one floor in one cube pod in Roseville, Minnesota. Now today, that's not how we work. We're working everywhere. So we've gone from having one voice, one type of person, one type of team, to blending. But while this brings us many opportunities, it brings us many challenges too. All right, here's my favorite one. Who in here is an awesome multitasker? Oh, y'all are pretty smart. Yeah, you all suck at multitasking, and so do I. I think the number one thing that's changed in work and life is that right now, everything is a frickin' distraction. And I can't even look at this slide, personally, without looking at the red dots with the numbers in them. And if you were watching this on a Zoom, like one of you would touch it, I swear. But I don't know if you have kids, I don't have kids, but I kind of worry for kids sometimes. I think one of the greatest skills we can teach them right now is just to be able to focus. Because if you can't focus, you can't do, you can't lead, and you can't think. And everything in the world of technology is preventing us from being able to focus. So how do you focus? How do you help your teams focus? All right, this was my biggest epiphany in my career. But I think the world of work has drastically changed, at least in the engineering discipline, or the software engineering discipline, I will say, from good meaning being perfect to good meaning being resilient. Here's what I mean by that. Personally, I'm like 100% German. I am the daughter of a civil engineer and a librarian. Both are very OCD in different ways. And I certainly was brought up that perfect is the standard. If you can do better than perfect, that would be awesome. And what does perfect mean in the world of work? To me, it meant this. I'm 100% sure, I'm 100% done, and I know I'm 100% right. We could argue this morning whether or not that is even possible. But I can tell you that the pursuit of it, whether it is possible or not, is painfully slow, is painfully expensive, and is fragile. Now, I will caveat that there is a time and a place for perfection, and that's when people's lives are at stake. If you work for Boeing and people are traveling on planes, I want y'all to be perfect, because I don't want to die when I get on a plane tomorrow. But there is a time and a place for not perfection, because it is too gosh darn expensive. And if you're building a web app, if you're building an app for an iPhone, and no one's going to die, we can't afford to be perfect. We literally can't, because a lot of times we can make a mistake find the mistake and fix the mistake way faster than if we waited till we thought we were perfect. But I was working this way on the left. And one day, about midway through my career, my boss, she called me into her office and she said, Ann, I need you to do better. I thought, WTF, I'm one of your best employees. 100% sure, 100% done, 100% right. And she said to me, if you would just do things to 80%, you could do a lot more and you would have a lot stronger career in your future. And actually, I don't put this on a slide, but what she really said to me was, you need to start half-assing some things. I took offense at that expression. Not because I'm offended by swear words, because I'm not. But I took offense to that expression because I don't half-ass things. And it took me a couple years to realize what she really meant. What she really meant was that last 10 to 20% doesn't matter. And if you stop doing that, and that last 10 to 20% can be the longest, the hardest. If you stop doing that, you'll be able to do more. You'll be able to influence more, impact more. And I'm thankful she taught me that lesson while I was still an individual contributor, because if I hadn't learned it, I wouldn't have been able to lead at the level I lead today. So as you go back and as you're thinking about today, ask yourself, are we investing in the 80% or the 20%? And if the answer is the 20%, ask yourself if you really need it, if that's the right investment. Here's another way to think about resiliency. All right, Nassim Taleb wrote this book, Anti-Fragile, and it's really about trying to build software and other systems in the world that are anti-fragile. And by that, we mean they're self-healing, they're resilient, they can come back. I'd like to think about and challenge this concept of how can we build ourselves as people to be anti-fragile. And one of the things I just respect so gosh darn much about young people today and what they've been through in the last few years is they really are insanely resilient, insanely anti-fragile. I think another way to think of this is, do you as a person, a professional and a learner, do you enjoy change or do you fear change? And not that fear is bad, because I think, we all have fears. I'm afraid of many things like Kyle right here, but is change something that you're willing to do and willing to embrace? Because we can't get away from it. All right, so we talked a little bit about personal agility. Now let's talk about what impact is this pace of change having on business, besides a boatload of stress. But I always like to think about it this way. So if we think about personal agility, I believe that ultimately the personal agility is going to feed the culture and ultimately the business agility that you're going to have in your organization. So to me, Gumby, sorry, I'm probably dating myself, but Gumby is the ultimate mark of personal agility. He could bend and flex and whatever. And I used to be in the Marine Corps, and the official motto of the Marine Corps is Semper Fidelis, which is Latin for always faithful. But there's an unofficial motto of the United States Marine Corps, which is Semper Gumby. And the Marine Corps does an amazing job of teaching resiliency and making it in the fabric of the culture. And Semper Gumby is just one of those things, which of course translates to always flexible. And you're taught from the first day of boot camp until you walk out of the last Marine Corps base you're stationed at to always be ready to change. And I think that's something we need to be better about in business. All right, it may not look like Gumby in business. It may look a little bit more like the scientific cadence or the cadence of experimentation. But if we get comfortable with being Semper Gumby, then we can enable a cycle of plan, do, learn, and adjust, and adjust, and adjust. And when I draw this simple picture, I don't just mean a sprint cycle at the team level. We've gotten really good at that in the last 20 years. We need to have these cycles at all levels of business. We need CEOs that are willing to admit, yeah, we tried that, and that was wrong, and that's okay. Let's celebrate that. Let's cycle. All right. Now just think for a second, as we think about enterprise agility, in your organization, how fast can you turn? I often get asked, Ann, how should we measure agility? And then I'm usually shown some sort of matrix of levels of 1 to 4 of how we're going to measure agility. We can make this really simple. Throw that spreadsheet away and just ask, how fast can we turn? And by turn, I mean, how fast can you change? So is your organization a jet ski? Or is your organization one of those big honking barges on the Mississippi? You know why barges are on the Mississippi? There's no corners. They don't have to turn. I'm not even sure if they turn around when they get down to New Orleans. Now, most of our companies are somewhere in between. It might be a speedboat or one of those luxury yachts on below deck. But how fast can you turn? And no matter how fast you can turn today, you're going to need to be able to turn faster tomorrow. That's what agility is. All right, if we want to be able to turn fast, what's holding us back? I put some ideas on here. These are some things I see, some things that we fight in our company too. HR. Anybody from HR here? We love you most of the time. But a lot of times we have HR policies that are old school, that are actually incenting individuals to have different behavior than we want. How about the culture in your company? Our company is 100 years old. We have an amazing culture. Yeah, maybe you do. But maybe you don't. Leadership? Agile. Those teams got to get agile. Oh, me? Huh? No, I'm agile. I read an article. Finance. Anyone here from finance? We love you too, but not as much as HR. Oh, finance, we need you so much. That is the #1 department that can just completely squash all the goodness. But when you get them on board, they love this stuff. Smaller investments and able to see ROI faster. Finding the right people. Who's hiring right now? Stand up if your organization is hiring right now, please. Look at these people, those of you that were looking for a job. All right, thank you. People that are hiring right now. Finding the right people is hard. Growing leaders is hard. And last but not least, politics and bureaucracy? Sometimes. Not all of us, but sometimes. So when it comes back to me, it's all about cycles. And my picture's a Scrum picture here. Don't be distracted by that. But it's really about product learning and those cycles. That's what makes agility. So as we think about change, start thinking in terms of as an individual, as me, as my team, as the people I mentor, and then also start thinking as a business. So the measures of individual value and success are changing. And this is kind of cool. And if you're that generalist person, oh, heck yeah, this is our time, friends. This is our time. Resiliency is king, and not just in software. I'm not just talking about chaos engineering here. It's great, but not just in software, in people, too. When we have that, we're able to turn faster. We're able to be more flexible because we have the confidence in our ability to steer. Now, heck, I'm not saying that's going to be perfect. We will be wrong sometimes. But I'll tell you at the end of the day, and maybe the #1 thing I learned from the boss lady, is I'd rather be wrong doing something than be wrong doing nothing. And today, so much more than 20 years ago, we don't have that time, because if we hesitate and we sit in the conference room and argue if the shade of blue is right, somebody else is going to beat us to market, and they're going to eat our lunch. So to me, this is pace of change. This is what we're going to talk today about, and it's going to be pretty fun. So before I introduce this morning's keynote, I just want to thank you again, everyone, for coming. I hope you have a wonderful time today, and I hope you have an opportunity to connect with colleagues, to meet new people, and really just to have a lot of fun.